In this video, we'll talk about get picklist values by record type wire adapter. And this adapter we import from Lightning UI Object Info API module. So we use this wire adapter to get the values for every picklist of a specified record type. So in the previous wire adapter that was get picklist values, we will have a challenge like if we have to get the picklist for 10 fields, we have to write 10 times the same code again and again. But get picklist values by record type gives us the freedom to fetch all the picklists for a specified record type or object. And let's look into the syntax. Here we first import the wire, then import the adapter, get picklist values by record type from the Lightning UI Object Info API. Earlier we used to import the field for which we want to get the picklist value. Here in this wire adapter we have to import the reference of the object for which you want to import all the picklists basically. So here we are using account object and we are passing the account object to a adapter configuration, that is object API name. Earlier we were using with the get picklist values wire adapter, we were using the field API name for which field we were want to import the picklist, but here we are passing the object, so it will gives us all the picklists that are available in this particular object. So let's go and build a demo for this. And now I am in my VS Code and let's quickly create a demo component. So let's go and create a component. The component name is get list values by record type demo. Now the component is ready. We'll follow the same steps. We'll say first wire, import the wire, then we'll say import the adapter, and our adapter name is get picklist values by record type, and this will import from Lightning UI Object Info API. Then we'll call the wire and we'll say this is my adapter and this is my configuration. In the configuration we have to pass object API name, and we are planning to fetch all the picklists for account object. So we'll import the account object first. They import account object from @salesforce schema/account, our object name. We pass the object API name. The second thing we have to pass is record type ID, and for record type ID we need to use another adapter, and that adapter name is get object info. That also imported from the UI Object Info API we already seen in previous two wire adapters. So let's quickly call this as well. We'll say want to call get object info for the same account object. So we are passing the object API name as account object. It will store the info in the object info as a wire property, and once this info is available, we'll pass a reactive property here whenever the object info property has data and that data has called record type ID. Wrap this up. So whenever you have this record type ID available, just call the get picklist values by record type adapter and gives us the data. And here what we're going to do is we're going to create a wire as a property, a wire as a function, and I'll give that function name is picklist handler. Receive the data and error, data is there, Let's go log that data. If error is there, dot log that error. And now we'll look into what kind of data is coming. And before deploying it, let's change the configuration here. We'll set some targets, and the target where I'm thinking to place this is a app page right now. And in the HTML, we quickly go and create the card, and in the card I'm passing the title, and I'm giving a div that will give some padding around our card. I will say data will come here. So our component is ready. We have just created a lightning card, div, nothing else. We are just calling first get object info. Once the information is available, we'll extract the default record type ID and pass it as a reactive property to a get picklist values by record type wire adapter. And that will receive either a data or error. Both we are consoling it. Just change it to console.error. Let's deploy this. Now it's deployed. Let's go and edit this. Add this component to our page. Edit the page. We'll go and search the component name. Get pick list values by record type ID. I'll place it in the right hand side top corner. Hit save. Let's go back and let's go to inspect and see what kind of data is coming. Just search your component name on the right hand side and then come here, and we are getting the get pick list field values, and that has all the name of our field that has the pick list values. So if we look into some of them, we can look into industry. We already have seen industry is coming, a rating is coming. Rating, if we go to the values, you will see again the label and the values are there. So let's build a pick list for industry and the rating. So let's go back to our VS Code, and what we're going to do here is we'll again create a reusable method, that is pick list generator, that will receive the data, and it will receive and transform our data into a proper label and values object like we did in our previous adapter, that was get pick list values. So what we are doing is we are transforming the data based on our combo box needs. So I'm saying data.values.map item, take each object and transform them into a format called label. The label should be item dot label, should be item dot label, and then I want a value, and it should be item dot value. So this will returns us the transform data, but here we have to pass the data in a proper format, right? So what we can do is let's create a property rating options, and let's define that property on the top, rating options, and we thought of using another drop down, that is industry options here as well. So we have two properties, and what we want is call the pick list generator, and have to pass the data that has value inside it. So if we go back and we'll see we have a data has a pick list field values, and then your field name, and after that it automatically has the values. What we're gonna do is come back and we'll say data dot picklist field, then field name, that is rating, and in this case should be industry. Now the data will pass, it will come here, it will transform the data and it update the options. And we can add the handle change here, but before that we have to add the combo box. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create the combo box here. We'll say lightning combo box that has name, say rating, then we have label and give the label to as a rating, then we have a value, we can set the value rating, selected rating you can say, and then you have placeholder, select rating, then we have options, and then we have on change of this option what should happen, change, and let's go and map the options as well, that is rating options. I'll copy combo box and paste it again for industry in these two industry. Say the label should be industry, selected industry, select industry, and industry options that we are generating here, and handle change, let's keep the single handler. And this time what we want is we want this to be shown, this combo box to be shown only if the data is available. So what we can do is just let's wrap this with the if true directive and says if rating options are available then only load my combo box. And same thing we can do it for our another combo box, and in the second combo box we want to show only if the industry options are available. And let's go and create a handle change, so whenever any of the field change should come here and call this method, it will receive an event. And what we'll do is we'll print console.log and say event.target.value, and here we'll say event.target.name, so it will print for which target you have select the value. So name you will get here in the first one, name will be your rating, for the second one the name will be your industry. So let's see whether we able to generate two pick lists, that is rating option and industry option. And we forgot one thing, that is selected rating and selected industry. We can create that property as well, selected rating and selected industry. And here we can check if event.target.name equal to industry, then update the value here for industry. Right, and if you have rating, we'll update the value of selected rating. And now if you see I'm writing so many times event.target, event.target, and also a best practice is here to just change it const. We are destructuring it, we'll say name and value, and that will event.target, and everywhere we'll just replace this with the name. This is a shorthand notation and a very helpful when you are writing so many things again and again. value, value. It will update, and if you want to see the value on the screen, you can print it here. Selected industry. Here selected industry, and here it's selected rating. Here it's selected rating. All good. Let's push this code and deploy this. And now it's deployed. Let's go and refresh the page and see. Likewise, you can actually get as many as pick lists you want. So right now, out of all the pick lists, we are just selecting the extracting the data for two pick lists, rating and industry, and we're gonna show those pick lists on the screen. So first is the select rating, that is hot, warm and cold. I select hot, so immediately it updates the selected rating. For the second thing, industry, you can select banking and it's updating. So if you have a use case where you just want to show only one and two pick lists, you can go with get pick list values. But if you have a scenario in which you have to show more than two, I would prefer to go with get pick list values by record type wire adapter. That gives you a freedom to extract as many pick lists for a particular object. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we'll talk about get record wire adapter. And this adapter we can import from Lightning UI Record API. So we use this wire adapter to get the records data, and with this adapter you can only get the record data, not the metadata or a layout information, only the record information. Okay, so let's look at the syntax. Syntax is again similar to the other adapter. You need a wire to call the adapter, then you need to import the adapter, that is get record from the UI Record API module. Then there are two ways to call this adapter. One is you pass the adapter configuration as record ID fields and optional fields. And the second way, if you don't want to pass the field, you can pass the layout type. And if you are passing the layout type, you have to pass the modes. So record type ID, we already know, like record ID is the ID of the record type. Fields can be a single field or an array of the fields to return. If you don't want to pass the field, you can set the layout type, and there are two types of layout, compact and the full. And by default, the full is the default layout. If you are defining or calling the get record using a layout type, you have to define the mode. And mode can be of three types: create, edit and view. By default, it's a view mode. And very interesting property here that will be passed with the both with the fields or with the layout type, that is optional fields. So in this optional field, we pass a property to which we are not sure whether the user has the access or not. Suppose there is a age field and we pass that age field with the fields, right? And when we try to fetch the get records and to the age field, the logged in user doesn't have access. So immediately this wire service throws an error. But if you not sure whether the user has access or not, then you pass that field to optional. So when we call it in the optional fields, it checks, okay, whether the user has the access or not. If it has the access, it will return the data. If not, it will ignore it, but it will not throw an error. So that's where we use the optional field. So let's go to our VS Code and create the demo. So let's create the component first. I'll go and say create Lightning Web Component, get code demo. Now our component is created, and now in this we'll import the adapter as well as the wire. So let's first import the wire method. So let's go and say I want to call the wire service. Then wire for service need an adapter, and in this demo we are using get record wire adapter that will come from Lightning UI Record API. I have that adapter ready, so we need to pass the adapter. Then we have to pass the adapter configuration. Adapter configuration is for which record you want to pass the data. So we have to pass the record ID, and we want the record ID to be dynamic. So we'll say @API record ID, and we need to import the API from the LWC module. And now we need to pass the reactive record ID. So whenever the record ID is available, then it triggers the wire service. Apart from that, we have two options. Either we go with the fields or we go with the layout. So we'll go with the fields now. Here we have to pass the multiple fields for which we want the data. So let's import the fields that we want to call. So I'll say import name. I'll give everything capital. Field from @Salesforce schema dash. I will use our count object here, and I'll say from the count object give me the name field. Apart from that, we'll import more fields. One is, I can say, owner name field, and it will be owner object name account, then owner dot name, and then last field is we can use annual revenue, and here we can say account dot annual revenue. So these should be the field API name. Basically you can check in the object manager. So now we have three fields. We'll pass those fields to the fields array. We'll say we want the name field, we want the owner field, and we want the annual revenue. And once we pass these fields, I'll just wrap this up. So once we pass these fields, along with that we can pass the optional field as well as a parameter. But if you are sure your record has the access to all the fields, your user, then it will come as it is, and we're going to use this wire as a function, because for us it's easy to visualize the data in the console, and to console the data it's easy to use wire as a function. So I'll create a function wire handler, and I'll say if data comes, print the data, console.log data. Yes, so we import the wire, we call the wire, we pass the configuration with the record ID and the fields. And before deploying this, let's add something in the HTML as well. Let's call this as create a card with the title get record adapter, and we can add div with the class SLDS padding around medium. Here data comes, and before deploying let's change the meta tag, and this time we're gonna use the lightning record page, because we can place our component in record page, because we are expecting to get the record ID, and the record ID by default comes mostly if your component is in record page, until unless you pass it from the designer. So let's deploy this now. I'll go to my terminal, I'll run my command sfdx force source push. Now it's deployed. Let's go to our awk. So I'm in my app 0 to hero. I'll go to accounts, because we are expecting account fields, so we are going to place our component into the account record. So I'll open one record, I'll zoom out a little bit, so I'll say edit the page. We are editing the record page, and here we already calling it, and we are consoling the data. So let's go back, and here we're gonna place our component. That component name is get record demo. When we're gonna place it top right hand side, and you can see our card is placed with the header get record adapter, and here data comes. And let's go and see the output quickly. Let's go to the console, inspect console, and here you can see it's printing one console and it's giving us the fields. The fields are coming only three: annual revenue, name, and owner. And we can print this data on the screen. Let's go and print the data. So let's go to our JS file. Let's store this data and store this into a variable. Let's create three properties on the top. So let's first property is name, second property I'll say owner, and third property I'll say annual revenue. And let's store the name first. We'll try to extract the name. So I'll say this dot name equal to, in the data, go to the fields, if you look at the data carefully, I'll zoom. So this is the data object. Under that I have a field, then I have to choose the field name. I'll come back here and I'll say fields dot name dot value. Okay. And if I go back, you will see under the each field there are two types of, one is the value, one is the display value. So display value is the value that is in the formatted state that usually the user sees, and the value field contains the value that's stored in the database. So what we're gonna do is we'll go and check whether the display value is available. If yes, show the display value, otherwise show the value. So let's go back and say if display value is there, we are using ternary operator, then return the display value, otherwise return value. Same thing we're gonna copy for annual revenue, and we'll say data.fields.annual revenue dot display, and if it's there then go to annual revenue dot display value, otherwise return the value. And let's go for owner as well. We'll say this dot owner equal to, copy this, I'll say fields dot owner and fields dot owner. Let's quickly check whether the owner has the correct format or not. So if we go to the owner, display the display value, otherwise go to the value, and value has so many things, so it by default picked up the display value because it already has a display value. So let's go back and print this out on the screen. We'll say div and we'll say name equal to, we'll print the name. Similarly, I'll copy this and paste it twice. I'll say the second one is the owner. I'll say owner, print the owner. And the third one is the annual revenue. Print the annual revenue. So let's deploy and see whether it prints the data or not. And it's deployed. Let's go and refresh the page. And now you can see it's printing the name, it's printing the annual revenue, but it's showing one error as well. So it's saying of display value. For owner, I guess it's throwing an error. Let's look at that. We'll say display dot fields dot owner dot display value is there and display value otherwise not. Let's go and check that. Under the fields, we are going to the owner. owner O is capital here, pass the capital O, and let's deploy and see. Now it's deployed. Let's go and refresh the page. And now you can see that my owner name is coming correctly, my revenue is coming in the formatted state, and the name is coming correctly. And now let's go back and see the other variation. Right now we are using the fields, but if I have to use the other variation, that is the layout type, how we can achieve that? So I'll just change the wire adapter here. I'll just comment this out, and I'll create another wire below this, and we'll change this fields to a layout type. We'll say layout types, and I'll say this layout type should be full, and I can say the modes, view mode, are the default mode. Let's deploy this and see what it gives and what it prints in the console. Now it's deployed. Let's go and refresh the page and see if it gives the same output or not, and what kind of data it gives. So data is coming correctly, it's printing correctly, our component is loading, but let's see what it returns in the fields. So if I go to the fields, it returns all the fields that exist in that layout. So you don't need to call explicitly each field, but if you have less field, like 4 or 5 fields, you go with the explicit naming like we did with the fields with this approach, the first one in which you define the fields. But if you have to fetch all the fields, you can go with the layout type. So any approach is fine based on your need. Now we know how get record works, but calling this again and again is tedious, right? So for this there is another adapter that we look into the next video. So I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we'll talk about get field value function and get field display value function. Both function we import from UI record API module. First is get field value, and we use this to get a field's value from a record. The syntax is very simple. You need to import the get field value from a record API module, and then you have to call this function, and in this function you have to pass the record data and to pass the field for which you want the value. The second function is get field display value. We use this to get a field value in formatted and localized format from a record. So like I showed in the previous demo, we want the annual revenue in the dollar with a comma separated notation. So in that case, get field value will give us the formatted value, that is the display value. The syntax is same. You need to import the get field display value from UI record API, and then you need to pass the record data to this function get field display value, and you need to pass the field name for which you want the display value. So let's go to our VS Code, and we follow the same component that we created in the previous video for get record demo. And here we were using the code for fetching the value and fetching the display value. So to make it simplify, I'll comment this layout one, and I'll enable my fields notation. I'll remove this one. And now whenever we are fetching the fields, name field, owner field, and annual revenue, we are checking each and every time data fields dot name and display value is there. If yes, show the display value, otherwise take the value. To avoid this complexity, we have another adapter, that is get field value. So this will always fetch the value from the record for that particular field that we pass. So let's call this method. We'll say I'll call get field value. Then we need to pass the record data, that is data. I'll enter this out and I'll remove this out. And we need to pass the data that we want. This is the record data, whole data, and from this data which field you want to fetch. So we need to pass the field reference, that is the name field. Similarly, we're gonna remove this and move this. We pass the same function 3 times and we'll just change the field reference. So second one will say, third one is the owner name field, and the second one is the annual revenue field. So right now we are just calling the function that is get field value and passing the record that is coming from this get record. We're getting the data and passing this field value we want from this data. Similarly, we are saying we want annual revenue field value from the data, and that value will assign to annual revenue property. So now you see how short the code is, and that's where the get field value works. So let's deploy this and see whether it's giving us the value or not. So now it's deployed. Let's go back and our same record page of count we were placing earlier our component here. Let's refresh the page and see what it gives. Now you see it returning all the values. Name is correct, owner is correct, revenue is correct, but the revenue is not coming in the formatted way. So if you know, like few fields are there that should be formatted, like phone number or a amount like annual revenue, we want in a formatted way. For that we have another function that is get field display value. So let's import that function from the same module UI record API, and here the syntax will remain same. You just change the function for annual revenue from get field value to get field display value. So now it will return the display value for us. So let's deploy and see whether we are getting the displayed value or not. Now it's deployed. Let's go and refresh the page. And now you can see it's giving the formatted value. I'll zoom it. And that's how we use get field values and get field display values function from UI record API. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we'll learn GetList UI wire adapter. This adapter is currently in beta, and we import this wire adapter from a Lightning UI List API module. Let's see when to use this adapter. I personally very like this adapter. So we use this wire adapter to get the records and the metadata for a list view. As a note, this adapter is not for production use right now, but it's always good to learn the new things. So that's why I'm building this video. Let's look at the syntax. The syntax is same as we have seen for other adapters. You need to import the wire from the LWC module. Then you need to import the wire adapter, that is get list UI, from a Lightning UI List API module. Then while calling this adapter, you need to pass some adapter configuration, that is object API name or a list view API name. For object API name, you need to pass the what kind of record you want to fetch. So here we are fetching the record for a contact object. And what should be the list view API name there? Here I'm giving the all context, so it will bring all the context. Apart from that, you can add more adapter configuration like sort by, page size, page token, and this page size and page token gives you a freedom to do the pagination, and it's very smooth. I'll show you a technique by which the pagination you can do it with a fraction of lines, like very few lines. So let's go to our VS Code and see how this wire adapter work. So I'm in my VS Code. Let's create a component. We'll give this name get list UI demo WC. The component is ready. First thing what we're gonna do is we'll create a lightning card, and within this card we're gonna add some margin around it. Should be padding, I would say. Instead of margin, it should be padding around the card. And here list will come. And before deploying this component, we have to set the targets and change the is exposed to true. I'm setting the targets because I'm going to place this component in a Lightning app page. So I'm setting the target as the app page. Now the main thing we're going to write in our JS file is calling the adapter. So first thing for adapter, we need a wire service. So we are importing the wire from a LWC module. Then the second thing is we have to import the adapters. So our adapter is getList UI. So we are importing it from Lightning UI list API. Now adapter is available. Let's call the adapter using a wire service. I'm passing the adapter, and then we have to pass the adapter configuration. So configuration, first thing that is very much important is object API name, and for that we need to pass the object reference. We can hard code, but it's always good to pass the reference. So I'm giving a reference name as contact object, and I'll import that reference contact object from @salesforce schema contact. And the second parameter we have to pass is list view API name, and this should be all contacts. I'll show you how you get other names as well. And then we need whether to use a wire as a property or a function. So I am using wire as a function because it's easy to debug and to visualize the data. And here we'll say if data is there, console.log data. And similarly, if error is there, error. So now our HTML has this simple card, nothing we are doing right now. In the JS file, we are calling the adapter and printing the data in the console. You can change this console.error, and print the error, and the JS configuration we change so that our component will be visible in the org. So now I'm deploying it. So it's deployed now. I'm in our Zero to Hero app, wire service app page. Go to gear icon, click edit page, and we're going to drag our component to the canvas area. So let's search for our component name, that is get list UI demo LWC. I dragged it into the right side, hit save. Let's go back, and now let's do a right click, select inspect, go to the console and see what it's printing. So just make sure you are checking the right component. So my component name is get list UI LWC. I'll open this object. It is returning us information as well as the records. So in the records, you see it's sending us the 20 records. It's sending us a record. Each record has API name, fields, ID, and many things. Apart from that, the page size here is 50 right now. And if we look here, other stuff have list references. And if I go sort by is at two level. First it's sorting by name, then sorting by ID. And the info can look into other properties like display columns, the column of the list view name, account name, and all. And apart from that, there are many things actually you can explore this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna print the records on the screen from the fields. So we have within the data we have a records. Within the records we have another records, and records are 20. And we're gonna just go to the each field. We're gonna print ID, email, or we can say name on the screen for each record. Okay, let's go to our VS Code again, and we'll create a property called contacts. store the data here. The context, we initialize this context with the empty array, and we'll say this dot context equal to data dot records. We already seen within the data we have records, and then further records has the records. Now we have the context. So let's go to our HTML and create a table here. You can use the data table, but I'm gonna use a plain table right now. So I'll say table class slds table slds table hyphen buffer. These all classes you look into Lightning Design System library. We have a table now, and apart from that, if you want to give some border, you can give the class slds table bordered, which look the table comes with a border. Then each table has a heading, so that for that we have t head tag and we have a t body tag. So t head will contain all the headers, so we'll create a row for a header basically, and each row will have table heading. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the three headings. One will be a name, second will be a email, and the third will be a title. And within the body we want to run the loop, and we'll say for context which we are storing in a JS file, we run the loop on this context, and we'll say for item have contact, and now we have to create a row. So each row will be a repetitive basically based on the number of records, and we want three table data because we have three table heading. And here what we're gonna do is we'll say contact, go to fields, name, and go to value. Similarly we're gonna do for other stuff. So second heading is the email, so we'll say in the field take the email dot value, and the third the title, take the title dot value. Right now it's showing error because for each loop expect you to pass the key, and we'll say contact dot fields dot id dot value. So id is always unique, that's why we are providing the key as unique id. And now our table is ready. So let's deploy and see if it's printing the table or not. We can use the data table, but I'll show you how to use data table more efficiently in the future videos. That's why I'm using a plain SLDS data table. So now it's deployed. Let's go press the page. Let's see if it prints the table. It didn't print the table, it throws an error and it says cannot read fields of undefined. And let's see where it's saying it. Fields dot name dot value. Let's go and we'll see what's the issue here. And now you can see I'm using for item contact, and here I use concat. And other thing that I want to do here is I can wrap this into the if true directive if we want to hide the table until unless the data comes. But let's deploy it without doing that and see how it looks. So now it's deployed. Let's go back and refresh the page. And now you can see that it's printing so many records, around 20. So the list view is coming perfectly fine, but now the client has a requirement to show only the 10 list. So we have that freedom to configure in this wire adapter. That's why I love this adapter. So what I'm gonna do now, I'll pass another configuration and I'll say I want page size 10. So it will return me only the 10 records. And let's deploy this. Now it's deployed. Let's refresh the page. And now you see it's showing only the 10 records. And now if I want my title to be sorted, so let's go and add another property called sorted by. By default, the sort works with name. So we can pass another property sort by, and we can pass the reference of title field. And let's import the title field, from the contact object and the dot title, and let's deploy this. Now it's deployed. Let's go back and refresh the page. And now you see it's sort the title. It keep blank on a higher priority, then it start with C, D, R, S, S. So it sort, basically you can sort based on the any field that you want. Now the most cool feature of this property is the pagination. So let's see how the pagination works. And if I go to the console and see the data, in this data within the records we have few other parameters. Right now this is next page token will be there somewhere, next page token 10. So next current page token is 0, next page token is 10. So if I want my pagination to work, every time it will bring me next 10 records. Apart from that, if you want to go back, right now previous page token is null, but if we implement this token system, it will gives us the previous and next record features. So let's go and create a pagination with a few lines. So first we'll create a button so that we able to achieve the pagination, and for that I'll create a div. I'll say class slds grid just for the alignment purpose. Create another div quickly with the class slds margin around medium, and I'll copy this, and again within the first div I'll create a button, lightning button, label I'll say previous, I'll say on click handle yes, and we'll create this method in JS soon. I'll close this button, I'll copy this button, and I'll create another button in the another div, and I'll give this label name as next, and I'll say handle next page. We can write that makes more sense, and here we can say handle previous page. So now we have two buttons, one with the previous label, second one is the next button, and both will call some method. We'll go here and create that method quickly. Right now let's keep it empty only. Right now we just set up the design, we haven't done anything specific to pagination. So now for pagination, in the get list UI adapter configuration, we have some other fields like page token. What should be the page token? And for that, what we can do is we'll create some more property here. I'll say page token is null initially, but whenever the page token is available, it will be a reactive property for you. So right now it's null. When it comes, it will recall the wire adapter whenever this value gets changed. And we have another properties like next page token, and we initialize it as null as well. And the last one is previous page token, and we initialize it with the null as well. Now we have three token: page token, next page token, and previous token. And once the data is available, what we're gonna do is we'll say this dot next page token equal to data dot records dot next page token, because in that record we are getting the next page token. Similarly, for previous page token, whatever the previous page token comes with the call, just store it into a property previous page token. And now for each next and previous, what we're going to do, for previous we'll say page token is this dot previous page token, and for the next one, what we're going to do, we'll say next page token. So let's see how it works. Let me explain you once again. When the first time we call him, we pass it null. So once the data come, page token will be 0, next page token is 10, and previous page token will be null. But as soon as I click on next, the next page token here coming back is 10. So now the page token become 10. As soon as the property gets changed, this var will call the next 10 set of records. And similarly, once we call it, now the previous token will be 10 and next token will be 20. Like that it gonna work. So let's see how it goes. Let's deploy this. Now it's deployed. Let's go to our app page and refresh the page. Now we have the data. Let's open the inspect as well, just so that you can understand in a better way. I'll open the object, and here in the records, by default the next page token is 10 now, previous page token is null. Okay, let's hit the next button. I click the next button. Now you see it immediately move to the next, and let's see if it prints something else. Yes, the second call prints again. Let's go to the records. Now the current page token is 10, previous page token is 0, earlier it was null. Okay, and the next page token is null because we have only total record 20. So if you have more records, you will get another token here. In the next page token, it will be another 20. So right now we have total 20 records. That's the reason it's showing only one pagination. And if I click previous, it will go back. And even if I click next continuously, it is automatically understanding I should go back to 0 because this was my last one. So this is the beauty of get list UI adapter, and this is how you can render the list. You fetch the list, you can change the sorting, you can change the page size, you can implement the pagination with a single adapter. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we'll talk about get nav items wire adapter. This adapter is also in a beta, and we can import this adapter from a Lightning UI apps API module. So we use this wire adapter to retrieve the items in the navigation menu. And as a note, this adapter currently is not ready for the production use, and building this video because in the future this adapter will be available. So it's good to know how this adapter works. So syntax is similar. We import the wire from a LWC module, then we import the get nav items from the UI apps API module, and we just pass it. We'll have two adapter configuration nav item names. This is an optional, but if you want the only details of a navigation menu of standard account, so you can get that. You can set the page size as well. So let's see how it works. Let's go to a VS Code and let's create a component called get nav item demo, and here we'll start with the same approach. Import the wire from the LWC module, then we have to import the get nav items. That is our adapter name from the Lightning UI apps API. Now we have our adapter ready. We'll call the wire, say bring this, and we'll just say page size maximum 30. There will be so many nav items, so let's restrict that, and we'll see we'll create the wire as a function so that we're able to debug easily or visualize the data. So I'll say nav items handler, say the data comes, console the data. Let's wrap this in a, if data is available, then only console. You can do it for error as well. Let's keep it simple for data only. In the HTML, what we can do is we can quickly create a lightning card, and we can quickly create a padding around the card. Here data comes, and we're gonna place this again in the app page only, so change the meta file, and let's deploy this now. So now it's deployed. Let's go to our org, click on edit page. I'm using the same wire service app page for this demo. Here we'll search for get navs item demo, drag it to the top of the right side, and it throws an error. It's okay. Let's save this. At least we place our component. And let's go why it was showing an error. Let's see. And I look at the adapter name because it was showing something wrong with the adapter, and I just realized the adapter name is get nav items, not get nav item. Let's deploy this. Page, refresh the page, because anyhow we have placed our component, and now our card is coming here correctly. I print something next to this component name. There is proxy is coming, and proxy we use some JSON stringify, and if it prints like this directly here, temp1, and yes, it's printing. So it gives us hell lot of data. I'll clean this out and paste it whatever it comes. Let me open this, and here it returning me the nav item 30. And if I open this nav item, each nav item has different properties available. So if we look into it, each nav item has a developer name, standard account. If I go to the another one, it will have standard app launcher. If we just try to understand what all data is coming for each nav item, so it's sending us the label, it's sending us the page reference with the type, what's the page, whether it's an object page, home page, app page, so many details, content. If there will be an icon for that page, the icon URL will come here. So right now it's sending us so much data. Basically that page size we have given 30, so it's giving us a 30 record. If you want to reduce this, right, and if you just pass page size 1, you are not sure which one gonna come, so you can define your nav items, and for that you need to say nav item names, and the name we just saw is standard account, so it will just bring the standard account details. And let's deploy and see what it gives to us. Now it's deployed. Let's go back and page the proxy Coming again to the right click, store it into a global variable, so it comes into a temporary variable, and write json dot stringify of this temp variable. And now if you see, it's returning only one object. And let's this and paste this. Now if you see, it returning only one nav item, and if I go the developer name, it will return only the standard account that we are calling. Okay. So what we're going to do is we just print few properties on the screen for the sake of this demo. Right now I don't have a real-time example for this, so I'll say this dot result equal to data dot nav items of 0. So if I show you, it's coming under the nav items, and under the nav item I'm just picking up the first record, that's why I'm giving an index 0. And on the top I'll create this property result. So once the data comes, that data will render on the HTML. So here we'll write some properties, and to show that, first thing we can do is we'll create a template first with the if true, so that when the result is available, then only render the rest of the things. And on the screen, what we can do is can place a div, 3 divs, and for first div will show developer name, second div will show object API name, for third div we're gonna show page reference, and we can use result dot developer name to the developer name. Similarly, do it for other two, so object API name and the page reference. So we are just doing it for a standard account have, and let's deploy this. So now it's deployed. Let's go back to our org. Let's refresh the page. Debugger, and now on the screen you can see developer name is coming, account is coming, page reference is showing account because we might have the wrong property of object. So we can say temp1 dot page reference not returning. Let's go back here and just what we are doing. Under the page reference we need a dot type basically. So if I copy this and go here and say temp1 dot page reference, under the page, oh sorry, here it is like nav items of 0 dot page reference dot type. Here page reference dot type will give me the type of the page reference, so I'll go here and create the page reference dot type. Let's deploy this and see. If I go back, if you see why it was printing the object and object, because it was bringing an object, we were referring to a page reference only, that's why it was giving us object in the HTML. So now it's deployed. Let's refresh the page, close the debugger. Now we should able to see proper page reference type basically, and now it's coming standard object page. So you can utilize for some purpose. Right now I don't have a real-time example for this, but I showed you how you can use this adapter to bring the nav items for all the nav items, and you can restrict it based on your particular nav item name. So we restricted it based on the standard account nav item name. Go back, you can see configuration is very simple. Nav item name, page size, and all the stuff you can configure easily. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.